Mafia, are you ready?
He said, are you ready?
This is Brotherly Love Wrestling Podcast, your first stop for everything professional wrestling. So sit back and enjoy wrestling talk at its finest with your hosts, Larry Hall and Joe Corrado.
Welcome everybody to Brotherly Love Wrestling, and on today's show, we'll be talking about, the word that has basically been the basis for pro wrestling since in entirety, and that's kayfabe. The reason we started talking about this is because this past week on Busted Open, they did this thing called a masterclass about kayfabe and the death of kayfabe in wrestling. And I thought it was an interesting topic, and one that coming from the fan point of view, because with Busted Open, you have Bully Ray, you have Tommy Dreamer, Mark Henry. I wanted to see what kind of conversations we could have about it. And Joe typically doesn't listen to Busted Open, but listened this week, and we both listened.
Yeah, you suckered me into listening to two separate shows, too.
I did,
because
yes.
It was a two-parter.
Yeah.
You rat bastard.
But they weren't bad shows.
No, they weren't bad shows, and it's an interesting topic because we shouldn't know about it. We know of the word, but we shouldn't know of anything that is defined by that word, because it is the kind of the gatekeeping, the secrets of the secret fraternity of wrestling. That's what I've always thought about wrestling. Like when you look at wrestlers, you think of it like the brotherhood or like a fraternity. And this is actually something that I can relate to because in college I was in a fraternity. So when you're in a fraternity, you keep the secrets of that fraternity and you don't let any outsiders know. It's the same aspect of wrestling. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. They keep all these hidden secrets in meetings. I mean, I know on the show they compared it to a magician's act. Like, you want to be amazed by what the magician is doing, and you don't want to know how he did it because it makes it less amazing.
Yes, yeah.
Which is a very fair point. I mean, you shouldn't. Not you don't. I won't speak for everybody. You shouldn't want to know what is going on as much behind the scenes. You shouldn't let that overpower what is going on in front of you. Mm-hmm. Now, we'll talk about both ends, like the fans' perspective, the fans' end, what we think that we've done wrong, what the fans as a whole have done wrong, but also put some credibility in the hands of the wrestlers and what they've done wrong to help
open the door? Or pull back the curtain?
Pull back the curtain, or I wouldn't say kill kayfabe, because I think it could be resurrected if it is, in fact, if we do come to the conclusion that it is dead, I think it can be resurrected, but we have to have kind of both sides contribute.
Yeah.
You need the fans and the wrestlers to contribute evenly to bring back what was. It's not going to be ever. It's not ever going to be the same. Not in our lifetime, I don't think.
No.
As it was when we were younger, but we can help save it and make it how it was. The theory of how it was, maybe not how the people were, but the theory behind kayfabe for the next generation.
Well, you know what, and that's the thing. Okay, so where we got this was that the death of kayfabe, right? And a lot of people believe
what they attributed to the death of kayfabe was an odd choice, I think.
Which was they talk about a lot about the Undertaker,
the documentary on the Undertaker. Like, I think that was weird because I don't think that is the reason that kayfabe died. I don't think that is by any stretch of the imagination. There's a biography on every single wrestler. Every single wrestler, except there was never one done in the first person point of view, like the Undertaker. Like, he never stepped out of character, but that doesn't mean that we didn't know that he wasn't a human being. And they led onto this on Busted Open, which it makes sense. Like, but that was weird to spawn the conversation off of that killed kayfabe. You're not really getting a peek. You're getting a peek behind a curtain, but you're getting like I don't know, like preparation. I mean,
You're still looking at the guy, Mark Calloway, when you're looking at that. You're not really looking at The Undertaker. You're looking at who he finally was, what we didn't see as far as his personal life, which, of course, you've never seen. But that really isn't the wrestling part. You're just seeing him in normal life. You're seeing him maybe walk to the ring or come back to Gorilla and stuff like that. I agree. I don't think that.
Well, here's the thing.
That's the death.
Well,
I think if it's dead, it happened way before that.
I don't think that's the death because The Undertaker appeals to majority, I would say, 20-something and older. The people that remember him as The Undertaker, like when he first came out as The Undertaker and onward. Like, we already know that he doesn't walk around with the fucking urn and he doesn't all of a sudden raise from the dead out of nowhere. Like, we know that. We're old enough. We know that. Like, that's not the part of that's not the part of kayfabe that I don't think that they're worried about as much. It's whether or not the fans are hip to everything that's going on other than that, behind the scenes, like predicting things and, oh, this is why this happened, this is why this happened. I mean, there's a lot of things that can contribute to muddying the viewpoint of wrestling. Like, they brought up a point of wrestlers hanging out with each other after the fact. And now back then, you either had a Polaroid or you barely had anything that was on hand that was going to be able to take a picture or a video like today.
Yeah.
So unless something happened where it caught like news attention, it wasn't going to get out there that X and Y were hanging out.
Yeah, or driving together or something like that.
Years down the road, you'll find that out. Like, nowadays, like, if you have two people after a show that are hanging out, they just supposedly fought each other, and they're hanging out, you have, anywhere from 15 to 15,000 people that could take that picture or could record that video. I mean, that's the part that is killing kayfabe, is the accessibility you have to the wrestlers, one, and two, the fans or the people or the dirt sheet or whoever is there with their camera who is exposing them after the fact. Like, it's so hard to stay in character all the time. Because when you're out in public back then, you weren't worried about too many people having a camera ready.
Yeah. Well, and that was really the only thing you had to worry about, though, is when you left the arena. Because the arena is that safe place to where it's all blocked off, roped off, no one else can get there. You have the back room, you have the locker room where you're getting ready. So you don't really have to worry about fans like that. It's leaving that you have to do it. And now, one example I'll say that me and you have said, we said it when it first happened, and looking back on it, is when we did our first sponsorship for PWE. And we walked in the Wrestle Factory and sat there and watched everything that goes on before an event. And watched the wrestlers and everything that was going on. And not only that, everyone came up and was very, very friendly, shaking our hand. Everyone stopped to introduce themselves. It was a really cool place to be.
They thought we were a big deal, but we weren't.
No, obviously not. But still. But we actually looked at each other for that one split second and said, doesn't it feel like we really shouldn't be seeing what we're seeing?
Oh, yeah, that was definite. It was weird.
It was a very weird, unnerving feeling.
Yeah, we shouldn't be there.
Yes, like, we should not be seeing this. And that was the one thing, like, I look at when you say kayfabe, like, that in itself. If a fan were to stand ringside for WWE before a pay-per-view, before a Raw, whatever, and watch everything that goes on 3 hours before the show, if you don't feel like, man, I shouldn't be seeing this, because it's taking away that magic. You know what I mean? It's you're peeking way too far behind the curtain as far as I'm concerned, and I'm comfortable with, because that was one of the most uncomfortable feelings in the world, was standing before the event and seeing everything develop and get put together and stuff like that.
Yeah, we had no business being there.
No, not at all.
I mean, it was nice of them to invite us before the show, but they should have probably escorted us into an area where we couldn't see everything being done.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, seeing that doesn't really put a damper on too much, because you're there at a live show ultimately for one reason, and it's not to interact or do anything with it. It's to be entertained by the people that are in the ring. I mean, if that's always the main goal, which doesn't always seem to be the main goal, nowadays it seems to be, I want to know everything. I want to know everything that's going on. Like, it almost seems like people don't even care what's going on so much in the ring as much as it is out of the ring. I mean, at least social media is as far as someone that killed kayfabe. I mean, social media is probably up there.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone... It's hard to hide who you are on social media. And I will say this, because I was thinking about this topic and what we were going to actually talk about and trying to play from both ends. I will say this. If we were to try and bring back kayfabe or try to at least a portion of it, it would be very hard to do. Because what you need for kayfabe right now is a very, very believable... You need more than one. You need many. For the business to be booming again. You need many bad guys. You need many, many heels. I mean, and a heel is different nowadays. And I think this whole thing where, they don't have to be defined as a heel or a babyface, I think that's stupid. I know we shouldn't define people in the real world, but in wrestling, there has always been a good guy and a bad guy, and it's always worked. It's always worked. Why do we feel the need to try and change that? Like, there are some things that don't need to be changed, and that's one of them. A good guy and a bad guy. And you need a very, very good person that is good at being very bad. And with social media and trying to keep, quote-unquote, kayfabe and keep your character, it's going to be hard because of sensitivity. And people... not being able to, like, if a wrestler were to come out and say something, I'm not saying say something derogatory or ill, like, to the point of where you're, I don't know, you don't want to say anything derogatory or anything like that, but you want to get your point across that I'm the bad guy, I'm going to make you feel small. But everything's cyberbullying, you can't do it. Well, look, you can't say anything and I'm normally not on this side of cancel culture, but I mean, it would be very tough for them to stay in character through all of you would either have to have nobody on social media interacting with the fans. That would have to be, you would either have to do that, or if you are interacting with people that aren't in your circle or aren't in the know, you have to be in character with them. And who's to say that they're not? But I feel like a lot of people aren't, especially a lot of people that are on the independents, like, that's why you don't see a lot of people in WWE, for one, interacting with the fans unless they say something completely out of line and someone has to put them in their place. But that's not really in character. That's themselves actually saying it.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong, but for someone to actually get that across, they would have to not be afraid, and they would have to stay in character all the time. They would have to make themselves, because only then will you get the person on the other side who can come to the rescue. You need that. Well, you need that really good bad guy to bring back that really big baby face. And with everyone trying to cheer the bad guys, and now I'll get to the fans. It's, you have a job. You have one job. You have one easy job as a fan. And they tell you. They don't actually tell you, but they show you who you should be cheering for and who you should be booing for. And if you want to be that person who's cool and edgy and hip, and all of a sudden they cheer the bad guy because it's going to throw things off, and now we're cool because we started a trend where we cheer the bad guys. Well, you're a huge part of killing kayfabe. You're a huge part.
See, that's the only. Well, no, because that's not true. Because I mean, a lot of, depending on the circumstance, I'll say it's true. But like when you look at Austin and the NWO,
we don't have them.
And
we don't have that.
I agree, but I'm saying they weren't killing kayfabe by cheering for them, even though they were the bad guys and they wanted them to be the bad guys. That wasn't killing kayfabe. It was just the fans telling you who they wanted to be the top guy.
But here's the thing: you can't go back. It didn't change every week.
No.
It didn't change. It was always Austin. It was always Rock. It was always NWO. It was always these people that were at the top. It was always them. They were always the one getting the loudest reactions. The people at the top. You didn't have to tell them. They told you.
Yes. Yeah. Which was my point. That's what I meant.
But here's the thing. It changes every week now. So you need to almost oversimplify it so people can't overthink it. Because wrestling is so overthought now, it's ridiculous. There is no simplifying in wrestling anymore.
I see that. Yeah, I see
everything
what you're
is
saying.
so overthought, overproduced. Everything's so big, and it's got to be a spectacle. And you wonder why people don't want to focus on it for too long, and they change their opinion every week because something is different every single week. Like all the promotions, all the major promotions are all over the place. It's hard to keep up with. So there's no wonder that you want someone different every week. They have a flavor of the month or a flavor of the week. They can't find someone that they can just stick to, and it's because there's too much going on. I mean, a lot of it's booking as well, but to save quote unquote kayfabe would have to take the wrestlers adapting to being who they are always and not straying from that. And if that means that you lose your fans and you lose your money, well, you got to play the long game on this one because it's going to get you to where you want to be because you're going to be one of the only ones doing it at this point, and that's where your value is going to be.
Well, and I think that's where MJF kind of is.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's not too many of MJFs
No,
that are
there's
actually
not.
out there.
There is,
because,
no.
I mean, if you look on WWE side, everyone's that could be considered a heel is always doing something else that isn't heelish. Like, they have their own sitcom, TV show. Well, there's a peek behind the curtain right there. There's a huge peek behind the curtain. There's your life outside of wrestling. Or, actually, I can't think of any, really good heels in the WWE right now. And I know Roman could be up there, but, I mean, Roman's kind of like the cool badass. I mean, until fans come back and they're not filtering in shit, you'll be able to tell what they think of Roman Reigns. He might get cheered.
And that's what, July 16th, right?
Something like that.
Something like
where
that.
they'll be back.
Yeah, first
Which is
event with fans.
It's exciting.
It is.
To get to see live wrestling again where there'll be fans in attendance. Like, this is like, here's what I hope, and here's what I think would probably happen. You've been robbed of this for so long that you have no choice but to appreciate what is in front of you.
Yes, I think the dickhead asshole fans hitting beach balls, chanting "you fucked up," stuff like that.
Well, they're not going to New York on their first go around, so
No.
I mean, there's a good chance that won't happen.
But I think that's the thing. That's the point that I think fans are going to appreciate it more. And even if it's a little bit of a honeymoon phase, then it's a little bit of honeymoon phase, and fans are more welcoming and toned down. I don't know about toned down. Everyone's going to be rabid to see wrestling, but at least from trying to distract and just at least be entertained, enjoy, and do what you're supposed to do as a fan instead of trying to take over Raw or SmackDown or whatever event it is.
I think it'll eventually get back to that, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
I think for the first couple months, it'll be everyone's. I mean, and you go into a couple events, and then you go with one event, and then you got Money in the Bank,
Yeah.
and then Raw.
Yeah.
So you go off
Yeah,
with one of the best
so
pay-per-views.
That's what it is. It's Friday Night SmackDown on the 16th. Then the 18th
Money in
is
the
the
Bank.
pay-per-view. Yes, and then from then on we have fans.
So this year will be nice because Money in the Bank last year was all theatrical and whatever you want to call it.
In Titan Tower, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this year you actually get the ladder match, and it's actually in the
Yes.
ring, and it's going to be hopefully an outcome where the briefcase will actually matter. But to go back to what we were talking about, kayfabe, I don't want to get too far into it. We will talk. I guess we could talk fans being back in attendance and the upcoming pay-per-view on Sunday.
Yes. Yeah.
At
AEW's
the
Double
end
or
of the
Nothing.
show. But I think the whole kayfabe thing, it's just it's wanting too much and not being happy. Like, if you keep poking and prodding at wrestling and you want to know too much, there's a good chance that it's gonna hurt your love for wrestling. Like, why did anybody become a wrestling fan in the first place? It wasn't because of what they were doing outside of the ring. It was what they were doing in front of you, either in the ring or on the microphone or anything like that. I mean, that's what got you into wrestling to begin with. And now this new era and this new generation, all of a sudden, they're so nosy and they want to know things. Like, I took a social media break over the past couple weeks. Like, I've gotten my screen time down like substantially, where it's like an hour or two a day, if that. Mm-hmm. So I've been staying off of social media. I haven't been catching up on all that much wrestling, but I'll tell you what, the wrestling that I have watched it hasn't. It's. I mean, some of it's the same old stuff. I mean, when you watch Raw, there's parts that are just like, all right, well, I know I've seen this before, but there's some parts that are just like I'm able to appreciate the parts that aren't like that much more.
Yeah.
Like when I watch AEW, there's some things that I still don't get about AEW. And there's still, I mean, we went over last week. There's still people that still don't get me as excited as they should for AEW. But for the most part, whatever I'm watching, I'm enjoying it more. Like when you take a lot of things off the table and you put a lot of things into perspective too, and you just sit there like, I'm tired of overthinking wrestling. Like
Exactly,
I'm literally
yes.
tired of it. Like
Yeah.
to the point of where we've done this show for almost 4 years now. We've done this show, and we started off this show so negative, where we would just criticize and critique, and we would say what we don't like about wrestling. It's so tiring to say what you don't like. You forget, and that's what the trend is. It's that people want to listen to what you don't like, your hot takes, what's going to start a controversy. Like, it's just so tiring every single day looking at that. You're like, this isn't fun at all. You get to a point where you're just like, this is miserable.
Yeah.
This is miserable. People are fucking miserable. I just want to enjoy what I used to enjoy as a kid and kind of get into that mindset, because everything else in life, I don't get to think like that. And it just gets, and you're just like, look, I don't care. We still get made fun of for liking wrestling.
Yeah.
But when we get to the point of where we're not enjoying it, that's where we're like, well, what the fuck? I'm going to get made fun of for watching something that I'm not even enjoying? Fuck that. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to stop watching it, but I'm going to enjoy it again. I'm going to find what I like. I'm going to find the different roads of wrestling to go down, and I'm going to fucking find something to enjoy. And with so many different things, it's easy. It's easy to find fucking wrestling. Why is everyone so involved about what they shouldn't be concerned about and just enjoy what they're watching? It's just,
I think the
it's
biggest part,
simplifying.
like you said, with social media is putting your phone down when watching wrestling has, for me, made me appreciate it more and be negative and way less.
I only pick up my phone to text you.
Yeah.
Of what you're watching and what you think of it.
Yeah.
Because that I don't find is distracting, because I usually do it during commercial.
Yeah.
And you usually get back to me the next commercial.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. Is because
like, I don't
typically we're not always watching the same stuff.
No,
for the most part.
we are now, because Wednesday nights have split.
Yes.
They became Tuesday, Wednesday. Because
yeah.
Wednesdays we were kind of going back and forth. I was watching one, you were watching the other, because, quite frankly, I couldn't do both in one night, and I would never get to the other one, so I had to at least watch one.
Yes, yeah.
But, I mean, for the most part, we're on the same page now for what we're watching, which is nice. But it's just, yeah, you get to the point of where, like, I don't want to see what, like, there's some things that are funny, like when you go scroll through social media, like, you usually get to it after the fact. There's some things that are funny, but most of the time, it's just someone complaining and everyone else jumping on that bandwagon.
Yes, and it gets, very, like you said, very tiring.
It just doesn't make sense anymore.
It's
just
not fun to look at. Like it's just I can't do it, which is why I put my phone down. And like I said about Dynamite last week, I thought it was a step down from the week before, because I thought the week before was one of the greatest weeks of Dynamite I've ever seen.
I was very excited for last week's Dynamite, and I think I hyped myself up too much. I'm telling you, I think the Cassidy injury fucking... Because that was the match I was excited for the most.
Yeah.
And it got me. I was like, man. And then I seen him at the Sixers game, so all was right in the world.
I was going to say
and
that.
The Sixers
him and
won.
Chucky T.
So him and Chucky T, if you're not at every home game, I don't know what the fuck you're doing with your life. I don't care what you're skipping fucking Dynamite, and you're going to fucking...
That's tomorrow night, right?
Yeah.
That's tomorrow
no,
night.
they don't have... They're not going until Friday this week.
Oh, that's right.
Dynamite's on Friday.
There you go. They can do it then.
They can do it.
There you go.
They're
They
good
can be in
luck.
the game. That's right.
But, yeah, it's just, I mean, kayfabe could be brought back. I mean, it's going to take a lot of effort on both ends. It's going to take almost everything from one end and everything another, and kind of just get to the point of where, all right, I'm going to take this for what it is. I mean, you could still have your criticisms about what you don't like. That's fine.
Yeah.
But as long as you're watching it and you're trying to believe or trying to just watch what you're seeing and not thinking like, oh, I wonder why they did that. Why they did that? Like, look, we don't know why they do anything. from a fan's perspective, we don't know why they do anything.
And it literally changes weekly. Like, it's not like they stay with the same shit all the time.
No, I'm just saying, in the ring.
Yeah.
In the ring, fans, unless you've gotten into a ring before, you don't know what they're doing in there.
No.
You have no idea what they're doing in there. You could speculate to say that sometimes they don't know what they're doing in there, but even then, like, you can't say that because you've never done it.
It takes a lot of balls to say a professional doesn't know what they're doing in their profession.
Well, if you
and you not being one of those
I
professionals.
mean, it happens in every sport. Like, if you're going to, like, say, I don't know, we'll take fucking, what's another physical sport?
Besides football?
Football, MMA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're going to go in there and say, oh, some guy doesn't know what he's doing because he got knocked out. No, there was just someone that was better that night. Like, and look, who the fuck's getting in the ring with someone who's like 220 pounds and can literally kill you? Like that's what they do. They can literally kill each other.
Yeah.
I mean, if it weren't for rules and whatnot. Like, you can't say that because you've never been in there.
But there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks who love to analyze and talk how people screw up. And, of course, the biggest word is botching. And, they could have did this. They could have... Like, as fans... You cannot...
Botch accounts. I've muted all botch accounts. Yeah. Anyone that has botch in their name is done.
Yeah.
Like, I can't watch it anymore.
No.
I can't watch it. I don't care. And the publicity that it gets and the backing that it gets and everyone shitting on it. Oh, he messed up. Like, motherfucker, I want cameras at every one of these people's jobs, if they even have them. If their job isn't sitting at home and eating fucking corn chips. If that's not their job and they're actually out there in the real world, I know I fuck up. Not daily, but I fuck up.
Yeah.
I mean, I've shocked myself numerous times. Like, you fuck up.
Yeah.
It's all a part of fucking, like, they have a camera on them. How many fucking times look, fucking Ben Simmons had a camera on him fucking all day during that game. He couldn't hit a goddamn fucking free throw. I mean, he had an amazing game other than that on the other end of the floor, but he goofed. He can't make a fucking free throw. Look, I mean, you're good. There's botches. I mean, there's professionals that are really good at what they're doing, but they're going to mess up. It just happens. Like, not to mention the average age of these fucking wrestlers now is probably early 30s to maybe late 20s.
Yeah.
There's a lot of young people.
WWE, I think, has like this unwritten age rule where it's like 24 and up, 25 and up.
Well, I mean, Jericho skews fucking that number for AEW substantially. And if anybody brings Ric Flair on their show, I mean, you might as well forget about it. I mean, that skews that number to at least 100.
Yeah, true.
But, I mean, botches happen. Those fucking, the people that just need to highlight the botch and
yeah.
What it comes down to is wrestling is fine. It just, people just need to realize what they're watching it for. And there's a lot of people that do, and there's a lot of people that don't. Once that starts to level out, and on the wrestling end, I mean, it starts with booking. And if you're going to book shit, you're going to get more people focused on the shitty booking than anything else. But it's so hard to be able to tell what people want to see because things change all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, people only get up in arms about these people, for the most part, when they're not with that company anymore and they leave.
Mm-hmm. Or they're disgruntled and want to leave.
Yeah, so people, and that's the other thing. People that are going to put air their laundry out against a company. Like, I will say this, that of all the things Bully Ray said, that people that actually have beef with each other, to put them in a promotion together, that makes sense because you're going to be able to get that genuine animosity towards each other.
Tapping into real life emotion.
Tapping into real life emotion and being a professional is what you are. You're a professional wrestler. You keep it in the ring. Anything that happens out of the ring, if you don't like each other, good. We want that because we don't want you to hang out after the match.
Yeah, exactly.
And he seems to think that there's a lot of people that kind of don't like each other. I don't know about that nowadays. But acting. This is your job. You're an actor. You're an entertainer. This is how you have to act if you want to get further and you want the business to grow. Mm-hmm. Like this, that is legitimate.
Yeah.
Like if you want the business to grow, then you're going to have to keep things a little bit more secret than you'd like.
Well, and that's the other thing about, especially look just on our show. I mean, we're at over 205 episodes at this point. probably about half of them are interviews, or maybe probably more than half of them are interviews. And every time we have somebody on, that's one thing that we'll never ever do, where we'll have someone on and we don't want them to be in character. We want it to be a shoot interview or whatever. Like, we've had several that have told us, or just going right into character and been in character from start to finish. Or people that said, look, I'm going to be in character during this. I'm going to go kind of in and out and be hybrid. Like, that's the cool thing about us being able to do this show, is letting them promote themselves however they want. And if they're going to stay in character and want to keep close to kayfabe and keep it kayfabe like that, we have no problem with that. And actually, sometimes, depending on the guest, we preferred it because it's a better interview.
Well, it's more entertaining.
Yes.
When they're in character, because it's what they're used to. It's what they like.
Exactly.
And we're able to play different angles from it. But, we'll always remember what Vic said.
Yes.
Wrestlers will only let you know what they want you to know.
Yes. Yeah.
It seems to be a mentality that is starting to deteriorate a little bit. But, again, we don't know that for sure.
Because of that exact sentence right there.
Yeah.
And that's where kayfabe lives right there.
Yeah, is that they will let you peek behind the curtain depending on who you are and what they think you know, or they'll keep you in the dark completely.
Yes.
So, yeah. If anything, we have that. You think you know, but you might have no idea.
Yeah. And that's where that smart mark comes from.
Is that they think they know more than they actually know.
Yeah.
And they have a following of people that think like them, and they think that, oh, this person just discovered something, so let's hop on this.
Exactly.
When they actually have no idea, and everyone else is laughing at them.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So let's move on. Like we said before, we have a big pay-per-view, probably AEW's biggest pay-per-view. Double or Nothing is probably it at this point.
I think the 2-year anniversary from the big show where Moxley came, and...
Yes, was today.
It was today.
Yes, yep.
So, when you think of Double or Nothing, you think that.
Yes.
You think that's that was their big moment.
It was.
That was their biggest moment, was when Moxley came in and fucking beat up Omega and beat up Jericho.
Yeah.
That was AEW. That was their high point. Now the problem now is, did they hit their peak too early? Can they? Because they've had some other surprises and whatnot, but they weren't on that level. Surprises are one of those things. When you keep a good surprise, because no one knew. There was no leaks, no nothing from Moxley. Just like when the Hardys came back for WrestleMania. Just like when Sting came for Survivor Series. There's still a few moments in the current wrestling time, current wrestling era, where there are some secrets that are able to be held. No one knew that Edge was going to be debuting in the Royal Rumble. There's still... And no one knew that Christian was going to be debuting in the... Well, not debuting, but coming back in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And no one knew that Christian was going to be in AEW. So, they still... AEW, more so, I think, has that surprise aspect. I think they have it... Well, they're able to do it better...
The only problem with AEW in their surprises is, unfortunately, the biggest four they've had for their company has not been in front of fans. You had Matt Hardy, which if that was in front of 5,000 fans, man, that completely different. You're talking about game changing. You had Brody Lee, same show, not with fans. You had Sting, who they had somewhat, but not what you would want the 5,000 at Daly's Place. And then Christian as well. They wanted Christian to be a big deal. And that was another one where if you have fans, that hurt them. And fortunately for WWE, all the big ones have happened with fans. Edge, even when he came back, was with fans. Now, of course, WrestleMania, he didn't get that chance. But at least his debut or return had fans. That's the only thing I'll give AEW a little bit credit for, is they got the Raw end. It was COVID. And they had to move on. They had to let this stuff go and start to develop storylines. It's just unfortunate we don't get those goosebump reactions from those debuts because you didn't have the fans to react to it.
Now, is Double or Nothing going to be in front of fans?
Yes. Full packed packed arena at Daly's Place on Sunday.
So for their full... Oh, so it's Daly's Place?
Daly's Place. Or wait, is it Daly's Place? Hold on. I thought it was. Let me make sure before I actually say it. Yes, Daly's Place. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so about 5,000 people then.
All right. So at least there will be fans there. I mean, it's not fucking 20,000 or 30,000 like there should be, but 5,000 is better than nothing.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Stadium Stampede match will probably be pre-taped. And they'll probably watch it on the screen because they're not going to do a live cut to the stadium.
It's TIAA Bank Field, which I would assume is the Jaguars field. I'm not positive, but yeah, I would assume that's pre-taped.
Yeah,
I think
that's going to be
it would have to be
cinematic style match. So
yeah,
all the other rest of the matches will be in front of a crowd. So that might even be the main event. It depends.
Well, I mean, you have the title on the line, so I mean, you got Kenny and Cassidy and Pac as your title match. So,
I mean, truthfully, I don't think the Stadium Stampede should be. I think if anything, maybe even start the show because
the Stadium Stampede
last time it ended the show. But I think that I'm never a big fan of anything going on after the main title.
The title, yes. The title should
no matter
end the
what
show.
that title is, it could be the women's title. But a main title should...
Unless it's something like the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble is a completely different scenario.
That's a different story.
Yeah.
I would say that would probably be the only asterisk.
Yeah.
Because even the Money in the Bank should go on first because just in case someone wants to cash in at the end of the night.
Yes, yeah. But the other thing that could open the show, obviously, it probably will, is the Battle Royal.
Is that
the Casino Battle Royal?
That's not on the pre-show?
Not right now, no.
So that is for a number one contender?
Yes. Yep, for the World Championship. A future World Championship match.
All right, so we're looking at the combatants right now, and I see a to be announced.
Yes.
So that's probably going to be a surprise.
Most likely.
Unless that's someone...
who's going to be named on Dynamite this week.
As the last entrant. As of right now, who can I see actually being the next in line? It's the first name.
Yes, I agree. That was my first thought.
Christian.
Was Christian? Yes.
I mean, if anybody...
Well, look. Remember when Christian came in? They planted that seed of
him versus Omega.
So I don't know.
And you know my thoughts with Omega right now. I'm not going to rehash that, but I don't think he should be champion. I don't think he's doing anything for that title. I think he's holding 3 titles and he's doing nothing for any of those companies that he's the champion of. He's not.
Well, AAA, that one's coming.
I think he's going to drop it.
I'm cool with that. But I want to see that match. That's one thing that will drag me to AAA. I've never watched it before.
I will say this. I am interested if Bill's prediction somehow comes true. I will be interested for a Kenny Omega Samoa Joe match.
I don't know if I would be. I mean, look, in ring, of course I would be. But
yeah.
I don't mean like that.
You mean promo-wise?
I mean storytelling, yes.
Yeah.
I know Joe can obviously hold up his end, but
I think Joe will have to carry that end.
Yes.
I think Joe will have to carry that whole feud, kind of like what he did with Styles.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be the same thing.
Exactly, yes. I agree with that. Yeah.
So, but I think Joe can do it.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I mean, we think Cage comes out, Christian Cage wins that.
It depends. If they have someone who's a viable surprise, then that could be it. I mean, I think Miro, Archer, I think Miro retains. I think Cody might lose, although it's Cody.
Yeah.
So, who knows? I mean, he's got to be going off to be with the kid, you would think.
Soon, right? Well, I know Renee Young is due very, very soon. I think she's 3 weeks out.
Brandy's probably
not far behind.
Far behind.
Yeah.
So I think your title change of the night, I think that's Britt Baker. I think she wins.
And I think rightfully so. I think she has vaulted herself up to be that top woman.
I think they need... I don't know. Unless they're going to keep it on Sheeta and they're just going to keep trying to make her the superstar but I think Britt Baker is surpassing her.
You know what? I'm looking at the rest of this card, and Sting, Darby Allin, Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page. I like the storytelling behind this. I don't like Sting and Darby Allin as a tag team. I feel like Sting could have walked away from Darby after he lost to Miro, because I think he has done what he needed to do with Darby. I think he has elevated Darby.
Here's the thing.
Made Darby give that Darby.
What if he has one more thing to give Darby? And what if it's a match, Sting versus Darby Allin? What if they
backstabs him?
What if they WWE it and they take the tag team and they break them up? I mean, this would work because, I mean, honestly, it's Sting. And they're trying...
Sting becomes the heel?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I'd be
he
down for that.
hasn't done that in so long.
I'd be down for that
Every time
because
he comes in.
I don't want Sting
It only
in the tag.
it only elevates Darby Allin at this point, and you're talking to someone who doesn't really care about or Darby Allin does, but I think that elevates him substantially. Going against a heel Sting, which we haven't seen since I don't even know, what was it, TNA maybe?
Yeah, TNA, yes.
That would be something interesting. I mean, the Bucks versus Moxley and Kingston. It does. I mean, I think the Bucks retain. I think they do. I mean, I don't know, but I think they do. I think
with the momentum they've gained.
They're trying to push themselves as these great heels, but they're not. But let that ride out. I mean, I think the ones hurting the title scene
are the title holders and the creators.
Bucks and fucking Omega.
The Elite. The Elite are the problem with AEW. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think that they're great champions. I mean, it's a good card. I'm interested for this card. I like pay-per-views, and I like what they do on pay-per-views.
The only match I don't like looking at the card, or I shouldn't say I don't like, because it's going to be a good match, but I'm wearing his shirt right now, is Brian Cage versus Hangman. Because, I don't know, I feel like this Team Taz Hangman thing hasn't been the best build. It's been kind of sloppy as far as storytelling goes, for me anyway, in my opinion. But look, Hangman and Brian Cage are two top-tier professional wrestlers. So I know they're on a good show.
They're right on that cusp of they can either be main event or they can be number one contenders for the TNT Championship. They're like kind of like those in-betweens. Like they could be high mid-card or they could be major championship contenders.
The biggest thing for me coming out of this card, I think going forward for AEW, is probably the most important match, and that's Miro versus Lance Archer. Because
I don't think you're going to get your way. I don't think Lance wins.
That's what I'm saying. How much longer are you going to keep having Lance Archer lose? And where does he go from here with a loss? Because I fully believe he's going to lose. I think Miro is just starting out as a TNT champion. So I just don't know what you're doing with Lance Archer. Unless he's the TBA. Unless you don't have him, you don't have that match first, and you have Lance Archer Miro start off the card and he comes as TBA.
But here's the thing, though. He's not going to win the major title either.
That's the only place. Where else does he go?
I don't know. He's kind of in that limbo of where you're going to get something good out of him, but they're not ready to take the leap yet. And he's not just going to... He'll win every other match. Or he'll win a lot of the other matches.
Whether it's Elevation or Dark or...
He'll stay competitive in the rankings. But, I mean, he's not going to win the big one. He's not going to win any of the titles. Unless he forms a tag team with someone. I mean, if they were to somehow get Davey Boy and they were to bring that back... The Killer Elite Squad. That would be really something...
Good,
to watch.
Yes.
Because they would run absolute roughshod over that tag division. Big fucking dudes just throwing people around. Oh, I would love that. I would love that. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Davey Boy's almost signed with WWE, right?
I guess. I'm not really sure. But the only other thing I can see happening with Lance is the same thing I kind of won for Sting is, all right, so they lose. Sting and Darby lose to...
They're also starting to build that, too, is... Lance versus Sting.
Exactly. So Darby and Sting can lose to Page and Scorpio, and then
I don't think is going to happen.
Archer and Sting can move on to a singles feud. But look, I don't know. I just want something for Lance Archer. I like him so much. I think there's so much untapped potential there. Not a big fan. I think Jake Roberts can finally move to a producer role. I don't think he needs them, but...
No, he's starting to be less and less.
Exactly.
He's kind of just there to go, here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Or stand in front of him and hold him back.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, look, Sunday's going to be a really good card, especially because you have off the next day. So you can relax.
Hey.
You know what I mean? Don't have to worry about going to bed right away. I can't wait for it.
Or you can fall asleep mid-show.
Yeah, which typically is very likely. But this should be a very good card. They'll not only that, it's in front of fans, like we said, so they're going to put everything they can into this show.
I think it'll be fun. I think there's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be a huge surprise or anything like that, but I think there'll be something that happens that'll be talked about ad nauseum for the week to come.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that we could wrap it up there. We talked about Kayfabe.
Flush it.
Talked about... That's how you categorize our show?
Flush it.
So
that's how a lot of people would probably categorize this show.
For people that actually listen to it, I don't think that. No, I have more faith in our listeners and watchers, for that matter. But
they just watch it, they don't listen?
Well, I mean, I don't know how to categorize people that watch it on YouTube as opposed to listeners.
I'm thinking they still listen.
You know what the hell I mean, goddammit.
Flush it.
Anyway, we hope you enjoyed the show, enjoy the pay-per-view, enjoy the holiday weekend, and we'll be talking to you next week.
Eat some hot dogs.